On the Trail Radio here, showing you the UV5R and how to properly program it in Chirp. Now, there's a couple ways you can program it, one of them being Chirp and one of them field programming it in using this. It'll be a separate video on how to properly field program one of these radios, but until then, I'll go ahead and show you how to get it on Chirp. The first step is to have a UV5R, and the second step is to have a Baofeng programming cable. It looks like a USB that trails down into the headphone jack. The headphone jack being on the side right there. You take the jack and you plug it in like so. You will plug it into the back of your computer or on the side of your laptop if that is where you have it set up, and it will be connected from the UV5R all the way to the USB port. So we're going to start from the home page as if you were on a desktop. Now this does work for PC or Windows, does not matter. So you're going to start by going to Google Chrome, and then you're going to look up Dan Planet and Chirp. Now you can go to the download on Chirp. Then you will see where it says download the latest Chirp build here, where it says Chirp Daily. And you can find which one is best for you. If you are on Windows, you can get the Chirp Daily installer where it says Windows installer recommended. If you are on Mac OS for Apple, you can go to Chirp Unified Daily where it says Mac OS Unified Application Recommended. And you click it, and you will download it and extract the files and get it to be installed on your computer. You will then shrink that after downloading it, get it to be placed on your desktop, doesn't really matter where, as long as you can see it. You will double click the icon that does appear, and it will open up something that looks like this, except for the fact that you will have none of what I have on here right now. So what I will do instead is turn on my radio, and once you turn on the radio, you can then go to the top of the screen. You can hit download from radio, but first I'm going to hit new. And opening up new does a couple of things. It opens up where it says generic CSV. Now you actually technically cannot start from just here. You won't be able to download whatever it is that you're trying to download. You can program and write all the code that you want, but it actually won't download until you use the right one. So you have to download from your radio and make sure that it's on the right one. So if I hit download from radio, it is going to pull up the port. That'll be for your USB. You might have a couple of different options, and it'll look slightly better on Windows, it'll be a little bit more consistent and small. But just choose whatever port it is that you have it plugged into. Your vendor, for me right now, this says the UV5G. Because this is a UV5R, you will click where it says vendor, and I will go up to where it says Baofeng. And on the models, you can see all the different models that they have here. But we're looking for the UV5R. So now that that is all set up, you go ahead and hit OK. It will tell you to turn your radio off. Now you don't have to follow these instructions to a T, but if you don't want it to be messed up, I would follow all the instructions. So turn your radio off. Make sure that the cable is connected. Make sure the connector is firmly connected. Turn the radio on. Volume may need to be set at 100%. Now I can say that mine has never had to do that. Ensure that the radio is tuned to a channel with no activity. This is a big one. I would recommend putting it on an FRS channel, a low-powered one, such as channel 7 or channel 8. That being 462.712, which actually is not a low-powered one. But a low-powered one would be more like channel 8, where you have 467.5625. More than likely, you're not going to get anyone receiving on that channel. You don't want it to interrupt what it's doing, because what it is doing is it is receiving and transmitting the data back and forth. Once you have everything done, go ahead and click OK. And if you never want to see these instructions again, you can go ahead and click that box, but I would go ahead and hit OK, and you'll see that it is cloning. What it means when it's cloning is it is taking the product straight from your device, and it will open up a whole new file. As you see right there, opened up a new file. I'm going to click, and as you see, I already have everything set up how I want. Now I will go through all the individual pieces and what each thing does and how to properly utilize this service. For all intents and purposes, I will, however, create a new file to show you. And before I go into the new file, you have the thing that says Chirp. You can just read about Chirp and the preferences if you want anything. There's nothing I've ever messed with in there, and I've programmed quite a few Baofengs. So if you hit new, it pulls up a generic CSV that you cannot actually modify on. Like I said, you have to download from your radio. That way you can tell it what radio you're using. If you hit open, you're going to open up an old file that you have saved, such as my file that says Baofeng UV5G. Stock configurations is how you see FRS and GMRS channels, marine VHF channels, NOAA weather. You can have them all to where, I have to scroll back up. You can make it to where it automatically shows you, for example, the United States FRS channels. You'll see that it's already on there. It comes with the repeaters, comes with the GMRS, and all that. But go ahead and exit out of that. Go back to this. If you hit save, it'll save your work. Save as, you get to name it. I don't worry about importing and exporting. Neither should you worry about any of this. You all already know what editing does. The view doesn't really ever get used. Download from radio. That is how we got to this point. That is how you download the data from the radio, telling it it is the radio it is. Upload to radio, we will get to later. But that is once your work is saved, you can then upload to the radio. Importing from a data source, you don't need to worry about. You don't need to worry about this, nor do you really need to worry about this. And the help does not really help. So what you're going to be worried about more is all this up here and here. So if you go on to here, you'll see the memory range. Now the Baofeng UV5R and UV5G, as some other ones also are, operate from channels 0 to channel 127. It technically has 128 channels, one of those being 0. And as you can see, I just limited myself to 127 channels so that I cannot go over the limit. I don't want to mess up the radio. So once you type in those, go ahead and refresh. And you don't need to worry about special channels or properties. So if you click on any of these boxes where it says location, frequency, name, tone mode, tone squelch, DTCS code, the duplex, the offset, mode, tune step, skip, or comment, it will sort by it except for comment. So if you click on the frequency, you can put in your own frequency. Let's say I wanted to use the FRS1 frequency, so 462.562. If you click off of it, the remaining numbers will all be zeros. It'll autofill it in for you. If you want to name it with a UV5R and UV5G, you have 7 max characters. So if I wanted to say FRS1, I can, or if I wanted another one that said the same thing, and I just wanted to name it this, then you would have to count out 7 ones. You cannot go over 8. It will let you type it in here, but it will cut it off. So, continuing, you have tone mode. When you click on all these, most people are going to want to worry about one of 3. You're going to worry about tone, DTCS, and cross. That is because if you click on tone, what this does is make it to where if you're trying to talk to somebody who has a tone squelch, they will be able to hear you. So let's say you have a repeater that is on a frequency of 100 for the tone. Then what you need to do is keep it only on the tone if you want to be able to hear other people while still talking on the 100 tone. If it is a digital tone, you're going to want to go to your DTCS code, and it will pull up all of the codes that you'll see on there. Now, once again, these codes are actually just going to be for people who have gotten to the point of getting the codes from the group or the repeater owner, or you and your friends who already have the pre-agreement to use that tone. Now, what you'll really want if you're using a repeater and you're part of a group is to use a cross tone. Now, the reason that is because if you click only tone, you won't have a tone squelch or a receive tone. If you click tone squelch, you'll have a receive tone, but no transmitting tone. If you click cross, you'll have both. Now, you can click separate ones, but as a general rule, especially on GMRS for the UV5G, or most ham repeaters, are going to have the same tone in and the same tone out. DTCS code is the same. Duplex. This is what direction you're going. So, because FRS doesn't actually have the ability to use repeaters. Let's assume that we were talking on GMRS channel 15, so 462.550. Go ahead and call it just 15 for channel 15. We'll say it has a cross tone of 88.5 and 88.5. Cross, by the way, just ensures it to where you can have both the tone and the tone squelch. Now, if you were to have a duplex, assuming that you are trying to get a hold of another repeater, you're going to either hit the positive or the negative. For all GMRSs from handheld, it is going to be a positive, and it's always going to be an offset of 5 megahertz. Now, if you're using an amateur repeater, then you would want to do something more along the lines of that, and it's going to be a offset of 0.6 on there instead of 5. But always check with the repeater owners so that you know exactly which one that you're using and if you're using it correctly. The mode up here, as you see, says FM and NFM. The rest of them you don't really need to worry about too much. NFM is going to be for narrowband, and FM will be for wideband. That's all you need to know. You always want wideband. The tune step does not matter very much. I always keep mine at 5. It's not that big of a deal. The skip function, if you were to skip it and you were to scan, it would only scan this FRS1 and this 15. It would skip my 111111 because I have a skip there. So you would only be scanning these 2 channels instead of these 3. The comment function just says you can add comments. So if I wanted to say, I hate this channel, you can say, I hate this channel. It won't show up in your actual radio, but it will last in your comments. It kind of just helps you figure things out. That being said, just follow down a list. I recommend writing it down on a piece of paper. And once you have that piece of paper, writing down the tone, including the receive and a transmit, whether or not it is a digital or a CT CSS tone, whether or not you have an offset for your duplex, the frequency, and talk to yourself and figure out whether or not you want to scan for that. Now, a few other things. Once you get to your UV5R, which I just clicked onto my UV5R, so that I was able to show you the settings. And you can see I have a bunch of frequencies for listening in on my UV5R. So if you go to settings, you'll get different types of settings. First, you have your basic settings. These don't really matter too much. It's your squelch level. Your battery saver. I keep mine at a 1:3 ratio. That's what it was at whenever it got to me. Your backlight timeout. How long it is until your backlight turns off. The beep, which you can also do in your radio itself, is just whenever you touch the keypad, will it make a beep. The timeout timer for how long you're talking. Display mode. I have mine set to display mode A, your top display, set to name, so I know what it says. And the bottom one set to frequency. You can set to the 3 different things. Channel shows you only what channel it's on, so channel 1 is channel 1, and channel 127 is channel 127. the name, which is what you named it, known as the FRS1, 1111, 15, the nothing. Whatever it is that you named it is what displays on that name. So as you see, J dot, K dot, Blue Star, MERS, etc. The frequency shows the frequency. So on my bottom half, instead of showing FRS1, it would show 462.562. It wouldn't show that last 5 because it is a 7 digits and one of those digits is a dot. Going on to here, you have your standby LED color. I have mine set to purple. Your receive LED color. Whenever I'm receiving something, it turns blue. And when I transmit something, it turns orange. The Roger beep. Your advanced settings show your Vox sensitivity. Nobody generally uses Vox, especially in loud, noisy areas. Your dual watch, that is how you have both A and B for monitoring 2 frequencies. If you have a dual watch transmit priority, then you will have A or B. Practically, what that is saying is if A is talking and B is talking, then if I had A selected, I would hear A instead of B. I keep mine off because I care deeply about hearing everything. Your alarm mode, if you have it set to sight or tone, is what matters. Sight means it will not transmit your alarm, and the tone means it will transmit your alarm. The voice, you have Chinese and English. I have mine set to English because I am not Chinese. The scan resume, I have mine set to where if I hear somebody while scanning, it will stop and I have to either wait a while before it continues after they talked, or I have to hit up or down. Busy channel lockout, that is if someone is talking and you don't want them to get interrupted by you by accidentally pressing the push to talk button. Your broadcast FM radio is pretty self-explanatory. Make sure that you want to be able to hear FM radio. The rest of this is not really important for basic uses. You can see my power on messages. It says welcome, and then my call sign, which I should be blurring out in a second. You can have your power on. It can either be full or message. Basically, if you want it to say your message, you can. If not, you can have it set to full. I like mine to say welcome, which once again is limited to 7 characters. If you look on the very high frequency and ultra high frequency, you can set the range to what you want to transmit. Now, I have mine set to 130 to 176, which is what it came to me as. You have the VFO mode options. Those are pretty self-explanatory for the most part. Your FM radio preset just says what channel does it start on whenever you turn on your FM radio. This is your push-to-talk IDs. Not very important. And your service settings, which just shows your squelch. These are what I have mine set to. Still not that serious. Once you have everything set completely how you want it, you will go to radio and hit upload to radio. So if I click upload to radio, I would then make sure it says Baofeng UV5R. Hit OK. And then it will start cloning to my radio. And that is all you need to do. You'll have a brand new radio that has all of your favorite pre-programmed channels in for listening, or if you are a ham, for transmitting on, assuming you're transmitting on a ham frequency.